Ngayon na palang live stream. Tawagan ko sila. Hey guys, ngayon na pala yung live stream ng drama TikTok. Tara, sabay tayo manood.
Ngayon na pala yun? Wait, sige. Ayan.
Dali, comment kayo, hashtag drama TikTok para manotice tayo.
Isang tanong, isang sagot. Kabit ka ba ng asawa ko?
Oh yes, my dear.
Panghula ka pala.
I'm your husband's mistress.
Ang programang ito ay hatid sa inyo na
Hey, kaya masarap ang puto sa hey. Kaya masarap ang puto sa hey. Kaya masarap ang puto. Bumili at tikman ang puto ng hey kaya.
Heikeya Dessert Shop. Sa Heikeya, masarap ang puto.
I'll keep running just to find a way to you till then. I've been running from it, tired of running from it, scared of feeling something else like I'm trying to get up out of this hole. I tried to be strong.
Tita's Delicacies. Kakanin never tasted this good.
Pops and rainbows, everything that's wonderful is sure to come your way when you're in love to stay. Sunshine, lollipops and rainbows, everything that's wonderful.
DJ's Kakanin. Manamis-namis pero masarap din ang maasim.
Grabe, nakakagutom naman mga commercials dito.
Guys, masarap talaga yung mga pagkain nila. Pero kanina tayo pipili.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Eto na naman tayo, Econ. So for this session, our topic will be Monopolistic Competition. For your information guys, ang source po natin for this session or yung mga info sa session natin ay mahanap po sa Principles of Economic by Mankiw sa chapter 17, page 377 to 391. So here guys, yung mga things to discuss for this session. So first, we have Introduction to Monopolistic Competition, Monopolistically competitive firm in the short run, long-run equilibrium, monopolistic versus perfect competition, and advertising. So hello guys, I am Lakson Usman. I'm here to introduce to you what monopolistic competition is. So guys, monopolistic competition, please don't be confused and describe monopolistic competition in a more English grammatic way where we tend to define competition in a monopolistic way, because monopolistic competition is actually a mixed match of two market structure that is both competitive and monopolistic in nature. Competitive, there is a large number of sellers, easy exit and entry. So large number of sellers to the point that an individual is actually considered immaterial to the overall market. So easy exit and entry because there isn't a substantial barrier restricting the exit and entry. Monopolistic, there is product differentiation, and due to this product differentiation, firms are actually given slight control in the pricing of the products. So for example, guys, we have a book industry. So let us try to incorporate the concept of monopolistic and competitive nature. So competitive, or for the book industry, there's a lot of authors, there's a lot of publishers that even if one stops, it does not affect the overall market of all those authors and publishers and all. So again, there's also easy exit and entry. Next is for the monopolistic product differentiation, we have genres and form. There are books that has romantic comedy genre. There are books with horror genre. And also, there's books that are in a size of pocket books. There's also hardbound books. So these forms and these genres will affect the demand or the willingness of people to buy, hence giving the monopolistic competitive firms to actually have a slight control in marketing regarding specifically the price. However, it is only a slight control because, for example, individual A likes a hardbound book and monopolistic competitive firm sells it double the price. That affects the demand for that book. So as the law of demand implies, the higher the price, the lower the demand. So that's it, guys, for my part. And now we will have the next speaker.
Let's proceed to monopolistically competitive firm in the short run. Hello everyone, my name is Brian Nicole Sohor and I'm here to tackle about monopolistically competitive firm in the short run. So let's go to the tackle about this kind of concept. First, as you can observe that monopolistically competitive is derived from the word monopoly. So it is somewhat similar to monopoly. It's just that there are many sellers and the product varies to one another. Rather, they differ from one another. So in that case, the demand curve is downward sloping. And in contrast, in a perfectly competitive firm, it is horizontal demand curve, or the price substantially responds to the quantity because there are many potential buyers or sellers that will affect the demand for the price, and there will be a conflict. In that case, it will really affect the price of the products for the substitute and alternatives that the buyers will consume to the sellers. And next, the monopolist rules for profit maximization is it chooses the quantity at which the marginal revenue equals marginal cost, because that's the general rule, and it uses the demand curve to determine its price consistency with that quantity. And also, we can depict the differences of this by the graph that was shown from the next slide. So as you can observe, the first graph depicts a firm that makes profit, and for the next graph, a firm makes losses. So you can observe in the firm makes profit, the price is higher than the average total cost, which depicts that it has a profit. But then in the other side, the firm makes losses. In that case, the average total cost is higher than the price. So it depicts a losses. So the only remedy of the seller is to minimize its losses in order to have an efficient quantity in order to have to not regress their business. So that is the way on the market of monopolistic competitors in the short run. That will be all. Thank you.
So I will be talking about long-term equilibrium. Hello, my name is Keo Tungupan and I will be talking about long-term equilibrium. Profit encourages entry. This means that when new firms enter, then the consumers will have several choices to choose from, which will decrease their demand. This will cause the demand curve to actually shift to the left. When this happens, the demand for the firm's products will fall and they will experience a decline in profit. If there will be a decline in profit, then other firms will surely exit the market. Next. Losses encourages exit. When the market experiences losses, then the firms will have an incentive to exit the market. When other firms exit the market, consumers will have lesser choices of products to choose from. This will help in the increase of their demand and will surely cause the demand curve to shift to the right. And, opposite from before, if this happens, then the demand for the remaining firms in the market will increase and they will then experience a rise in profit. Next. This process of entry and exit continues until the firms in the market are making exactly zero economic profit. So what is zero economic profit? A zero economic profit or normal profit in economic terms would mean total revenue minus explicit cost minus implicit cost. This, this is the aim of the market in order to reach an equilibrium. Next. This figure depicts the long-term equilibrium. When the market faces a rise in profit, then more firms will enter. When it faces losses, then firms will surely exit. These events cause the demand curve to shift, and due to these shifts, a monopolistically competitive firm will find itself in a long-term equilibrium, wherein price equals average total cost and the firm earns zero profit. And when the market reaches an equilibrium, there will be no incentives to enter or exit the market. Next. Now, we are going to talk about the observations we got from the figure. First is that the demand curve barely touches the average total cost curve. Second is that the two curves is tangent to one another. They have to be tangent once the entry and exit has drive profit to zero. Lastly, the maximum profit can only arrive at zero if the two curves touches each other without intersecting. Next. There are two characteristics that describes the long-run equilibrium. First is, as in monopoly market, price exceeds marginal cost. This conclusion arises because profit maximization requires marginal revenue to equal marginal cost, and because the downward sloping demand curve makes marginal revenue less than the price. Second is, as in a competitive market, price equals average total cost. This conclusion arises because free entry and exit drive economic profit to zero. That will be all for long-term equilibrium, and thank you so much for listening.
So our next topic will be monopolistic versus perfect competition. Hello, I am Vivalin Bea Taralba, and I will tackle about monopolistic versus perfect competition. So there are two noteworthy differences between the two, the excess capacity and the markup. We'll first talk about the excess capacity. For monopolistically competitive firm produces less than the efficient scale, as shown in the graph. Efficient scale is the quantity that minimizes the average total cost. And firms are said to have excess capacity in monopolistic since they produce lesser. And excess capacity also means that the firm can still increase their production and they can also lower the total average cost. The next one will be for the perfectly competitive firm. So for perfectly competitive firm produces at the efficient scale, where the average total cost is minimized as shown in the graph. This is because of the free entry, because it drives firms to produce at the minimum of the average total cost. So next, we will talk about the markup. For monopolistically competitive firm, the price exceeds the marginal cost. And for perfectly competitive firm, the price is equals the marginal cost. So we'll now see the summary of the differences. For monopolistic competition, the production is lesser, while for perfect, the production is at the efficient. For monopolistic, the price exceeds the marginal cost, while in perfect, the price is equals the marginal cost. And in monopolistic, we have excess capacity, while in perfect competition, we do not have it. Next. We'll now talk about monopolistic competition and the welfare of society. We will tackle here about the inefficiency of monopolistic competition. There is a markup of price over the marginal cost. We have here the high price on the goods. So some consumers who value the good more than the marginal cost of production but less than the price will be deterred from buying it. And there is no easy way for policymakers to fix the problem because at the first place, a firm in a monopolistic competition has zero profit. So requiring them to lower their prices will cause them to have losses, and the government will help them to cover it by leaving them with the inefficiency of monopolistic pricing. Next. So, in a monopolistic competition, it is really socially inefficient since the prices here are totally high. And it will never be the ideal one for the market. And now we will talk about the two effects if a new firm will enter the market. We have positive and negative effects. For positive effects, it will be a positive effect on the consumers. It is the product variety externality, since consumers will have variety of products to choose from. And a negative effect on the existing firms, the business stealing externality, which will cause them to lose customers. Next. So in conclusion, the monopolistically competitive market does not have all the desirable welfare properties of perfectly competitive market, and the invisible hand will not guarantee that the total surplus will be maximized. And in monopolistically competitive market, the government will not the government will not have an easy way to implement public policy to improve the market outcome. And that is all for the monopolistically versus perfectly competitive firms.
Hello guys, we are now going to move on to advertising. Next please. Hello, I am Job Salmon and I am here to tackle on the first few concepts of advertising. Next please. So, advertising. It is a means of communication with the users of a product or service and that these are messages paid for by those who send them and are intended to inform or influence people who receive them. Mainly, the firms will try to convince you to buy their products. So, advertising focuses on paid promotion that attracts customers to get to firms of their new product. Such behavior is a natural feature of monopolistic competition. When firms sell differentiated products and charge prices above marginal cost, each firm has an incentive to advertise in order to attract more buyers to its particular product. Next, please. So the amount of advertising varies substantially across products. There are three types of products that are being used in um, advertising. First, the highly differentiated consumer goods, which is not common to the customers. Therefore, firms spend between 10 and 20% of revenue for advertising. Next is industrial products. These products are mainly known wherein they typically spend very little on advertising since this is much known compared to highly differentiated consumer goods. Third is the whole homogeneous products or the essential products that customers need. That's why firms don't need to spend advertising at all since it is already known to customers. So for the economy as a whole, spending on advertising comprises about 2% of total firm revenue or more than $100 billion. Next, please. So the forms of advertising. The one form of advertising that is very used in advertisements is the newspapers and magazines, which comprise of 1/2 of advertising being spent upon. The second known advertisement is television and radio, while the third, that is the least of advertisement being used are um, direct mail, billboards, and the Goodyear blimp. Next, please. So the debate over advertising. These are the questions that um, people try to debate over. So is society wasting the resources it devotes to advertising? Does advertising serve a valuable purpose? Assessing the social value of advertising is difficult and often generates heated argument among economists. Let's consider the both sides of the debate. Next, please. So the first side of the debate is the critic of advertising. The first critic is firms advertise in order to manipulate people's taste. Basically, it talks about how the firm focuses more on psychological than informational. They tend to um, manipulate or to change the perception of the consumer into thinking, into preferring their desire rather than being knowledgeable about the product being sold to them. For example, Coca-Cola, the advertisement they have is more on um, showing to the customers that their products refreshes and is refreshing for them to buy rather than telling them the info about their products of how many grams of sugar are being used and is it even healthy for one person to drink this particular product in a day or 3 times a day or somewhat like that. Next, please. So the second critic of advertising is advertising impedes competition. It tries to convince consumers that products are more different than they truly are, increasing the perception of product differentiation and fostering brand loyalty. It makes buyers less concerned with price differences among similar goods. So basically, consumers are now focused on being loyal to one product, and that no matter how expensive the product is, they will always choose this rather than other similar goods. Next, please. So the other side of the debate of advertising is the defense of advertising. So the first defense is firms use advertising to provide information to customers. So here they're trying to say is they try to be much more informational rather than being psychological. They convey the price of the goods being offered for sale, existence of new products, locations of retail outlets, allows customers to decide better about what to buy, and that it enhances the ability of markets efficient resource location, mainly because if there are more customers being hooked by the advertisement, then the market can adjust to how many products are they going to produce given the number of customers that are going to buy. Next, please. The second defense is that advertising fosters competition. Customers can more easily take advantage of price differences, and that advertising allows new firms to enter more easily. Here we can say that um, it is already based from the customer's preference, and that if the customers prefer spending little, then he can choose which products that are suitable for him, thus making it a competition between firms or two or more firms on which they have to sell at a cheaper price of their product. And that advertising allows new firms to enter more easily um, since there are other products that are highly not known that they need advertisements for their product to be known and that it is a avenue for them to enter the market and that they have um, increased in competitors per se. So next, please. So in conclusion, policymakers accept the view that advertising can make markets more competitive. The primary effect of advertising restrictions is to curtail competition. So policymakers um, accepted that advertising can really make markets be competitive since they want to have more customers than the other and that it can increase their income since they have more customers. And that the primary effect of restrictions on advertising is that it can limit on, the competition between two firms and that with these restrictions, the problem will not be much more than a simple competition only. So that's all for the first few concepts of advertising. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Lakson Usman again. Unfortunately, due to internet connection interruption, our next speaker, Mr. Almisri Usman, will not be able to be with us for this session. Fortunately, he was able to provide us with the information needed for his topic. So Mr. Almisri Usman is assigned to talk about the other concepts in advertising. So advertising as a signal of quality. The willingness of the firm to spend a large amount of money on advertising can itself be a signal to consumers about the quality of the product being offered. The information is not in the advertisement's content, but simply in its existence and expense. So brand names, guys. Advertising is closely related to the existence of brand names, like for example, in shoes products, medicine, bags, or etc. So in many markets, there are two types of firms. Firms that sell products with widely recognized brand names, and second, firms that sells generic substitute. So for example, so in a drugstore, we see that they have branded medicine, like for example, in this slide, Bayer aspirin. However, there is also in another shelf, there is a generic aspirin with no brand names. So oftentimes firms with the brand name spends more on advertising and charges a bit higher for its product. Critics of brand names argue that brand name cause consumers to perceive differences that do not actually exist. So consumers' willingness to pay more for the brand name good, these critics assert, is a form of irrationality fostered by advertising. So two related arguments regarding brand names. One is brand names provide consumer information about quality when quality cannot be easily judged in advance of purchase. Brand names gives firms an incentive to maintain high quality because firms have a financial stake in maintaining the reputation of their brand names. Next, so here are the critics of brand names. Critics of brand names argues that brand names are the result of an irrational consumer response to advertising. However, those who defend giving brand names to certain products actually argues that consumers have good reason to pay more for brand name products because they can be more confident in the quality of this product. So guys, those are the informations regarding advertising that Mr. Al-Misri has provided us. So that's it for his part. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Daishita J. Sugiyama, and I am here to tackle on the last few concepts in advertising. This article is taken from New York Times entitled "In the News TV Networks as Brand Names." Next. Advertising. Before anything else, what is advertising and what is its purpose? So, TV advertising is a paid promotion or a promotional activity which aims to attract mass viewers. Aside from that, it has three primary objectives: to inform, to persuade, and to remind. First, to inform, kasi ang goal natin dito is to let the viewers know na may i-offer tayo sa kanila. Second, to persuade, kasi gusto nating maengganyo sila na manood and gusto natin na ma-attach sila sa shows natin na meron ang network. And lastly, to remind, kasi gusto natin na tumatak sa isip ng mga viewers na there's something about our network that makes it special. So, one basic element of branding that will help viewers to remember the network is the logo. Kasi basically, logos identify a brand. And since there are several logos for brands, we should pick something that will stand out to be more beneficial. Next. In television, the shows should be related to the brand name to build relationship. So since advertising to for TV networks, same lang siya with advertising for products. Kasi ang goal naman is to establish a good relationship with the consumer or the viewers. So because TV advertising is important kasi it can help you reach larger audiences or consumers in a way that alam nilang trusted tayo. Kasi even if only for a few seconds, advertisements put our network or product in the spotlight. Next, conclusion. So my conclusion is that although TV advertising is costly, it is the most influential kasi like what I've said earlier, yung mga viewers natin, they trust TV advertising above other mediums like newspapers and radios. And then it has the advantage of sophistication since it combines both visual and auditory stimulation. Tapos nakaka-catch ng attention yung mga different camera angles. Tapos yung combination of pictures and words makes it more exciting. That's all. Thank you.
So that's it, guys, for monopolistic competition. So here are our overall conclusion for this session. First is monopolistic competition is true to its name. It is a hybrid of monopoly and competition. To some extent, advertising manipulates consumers' tastes, promotes irrational brand loyalty, and impedes competition. To a larger extent, advertising provides information, establishes brand names of reliable quality, and fosters competition. And lastly, the theory of monopolistic competition seems to describe many markets in the economy. It is somewhat disappointing, therefore, that the theory does not yield some simple and compelling advice for public policy. From the standpoint of the economic theorists, the allocation of resources in monopolistically competitive market is not perfect. Yet, from the standpoint of practical policymaker, there may be a little that can be done to improve it. So again, thank you very much, guys, for listening. For any questions, you may directly contact us through our messenger accounts. So again, here are your speakers for this session. Again, guys, I'm Nakson Usman.
I'm Bernie Cole Sohor.
I'm Keo Tungupon.
I'm Vivalin Bea Toralba.
I'm Job Samong.
Of course, we have Mr. Almistri Usman.
Lastly, I'm Deshita J. Sugiyama. And
Thank you all for watching.
thank you for watching.